welcome to the second day of our conference on financing the green and net zero transition in the Eastern Partnership and Central Asia countries. Thanks for being with us here in the room and also through Zoom online. I just recall that we had an extremely interesting, extremely rich discussion yesterday about some of the key elements of green finance agenda, looking at the needs, looking at the different delivery mechanisms, including the role of the capital markets. And I found especially, well, all sessions were great, but certainly the one on capital markets was really enriching, since not everyone around the table is an expert on the capital markets. So certainly this was very informative and educational. So I would like to thank all the speakers for really sharing their experience and knowledge. I also hope, and I've seen that during the meeting and also during the coffee breaks, I think we had an opportunity actually to follow up and try to see how we can use those instruments, because that's an important element. Is to hear about this is one thing, but then try to move actively into tapping into this field. That's important to follow up. And this meeting and the fact that we are now meeting in person, I think it allows much more closer and personal discussions about follow-up. Well, before we go into the agenda of the second day, actually, I would like to ask all around the table to think and maybe share with us one thing that you remember from yesterday, something like a fact, a crucial fact or surprising fact or an important message that we should remember. And so any thoughts, something very short from what we've heard yesterday, something that surprised you or impressed you, or it's something that is worth working on further? I'll ask, yeah, and then I'll be certainly looking also at the Zoom. Yes, there is a hand raised from Stephanie. Stephanie, please, you have the floor.
Stephanie, пожалуйста, вам слово, Stephanie. Спасибо.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Yeah, just a word. I'm Stephanie Capdeville from the EU Greening Facility, and I've been very impressed by a comment from Sean from the Climate Bonds Initiative yesterday, where he said that there is a mind shift, in fact, among institutional investors, so international institutional investors, not necessarily in our region, but those who have these massive trillions that are to be invested somewhere, and they consider now that any company, any investee emitting equity or bonds, etc., should have green investments, should emit green bonds, should issue green bonds, or have banks should have green loans. So now green is not something special, is not a niche, is something that the investors consider that if you don't have it, it's weird and there's something wrong with you as an investment. So this will change the world in the next decade, from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this was, why I'm getting, okay, now, okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie. This was really a very interesting and an important point. And it shows progress, shows a very important development that will, once those small things start to accelerate, then hopefully they'll take the avalanche of changes with it. So I see Olena, please.
Good morning, everyone. Yesterday was a very kind of important day to understand kind of comprehensively that on one hand, there is a huge need for green investments. I was really impressed by the data saying that up to like 20% of GDP of countries of Eastern Partnership is required to allocate in order to achieve NDCs. That's enormous. And we have currently like less than 1%, 0.5, right? So there is a huge need. On the other hand, there were distinguished representatives of very powerful institutions saying, hey, we have all these great instruments and there is so much money out there and we are committed to fund, but we just lack the pipeline of the projects. Boom. So we have like these 2 points which are so far from each other. And then working with my colleagues in Ukraine, I understand that they are so overwhelmed very often with their routine work at the ministries. I cannot see them learning so fast about the opportunities that are out there. So I'm really kind of the question that I would like to address for myself, and maybe you can help me, is how we can bridge this gap and how we can be effective, but most importantly, quick, understanding that we cannot wait with the climate change. We cannot wait until there is a new generation of government officials who understand all these financial mechanisms and how to use them. We maybe don't even have enough time for the regulatory reforms. And yes, the question is how implemented partners of the EU for Environment program can be channels or bridges between the governments and the financing institutions.
Thank you very much, Olena. And actually, this figure that you refer to, that Nelly presented, was really one of those kind of stunning elements of yesterday. And I fully share your observation with the great needs, how we bridge the gap. That's a very important element. And certainly, look, I don't think that we will expect very fast change and suddenly, huge amounts of money being available, and on one hand, and several very well prepared projects being available. So that's certainly our hope. But then those kind of small steps, I think, that we'll need to take to establish contacts, certainly contacts between those who are in need of investment, those who actually have expertise in preparing projects. And then we're talking about consultants, about certainly people, experts in the field, how they are prepared also to go into this commercial activity of helping the investors to prepare their projects and then match this with the financing that is available. So now we have to look at those different stakeholders, how to connect the different stakeholders together. Any other thoughts, any other points from yesterday? Tatiana, please, from you, Nido.
Thank you, Krzysztof. Indeed, that was a very interesting day, and I wanted to reflect on the session 4 in particular, on improving the markets and closing the green investment gap, in view of huge need that industry requires to become greener using available green funds, and that the whole plentiness of available resources and programs is somehow narrowed down to the available channels, which feed into quite concrete and maybe conservative mechanisms of distributing those funds among the most in need, I would say, in this case, because enterprises, small and medium-sized enterprises do have a great role in job creation, in also the environmental performance and impact on environment, and productivity is one of the elements that they can improve when they are improving their productive practices, and they can also decrease the impact on environment. So the comment which Nelly made at the end of that session, that we need to have maybe more understanding of that plentiness of availabilities and funds at the country level, so that the government and other mechanisms which are responsible for those information flows would really facilitate that access and facilitate the engagement, so that the funds would find their clients, and that the private sector is benefiting also at a very small and micro, I would say, level, which industry sometimes is representing in the EAP region in particular. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tatiana. And certainly there is an important point of different needs, different frameworks between the needs of large enterprises that require very substantive amounts of money for the technological change upgrades, and then the needs of SMEs, of small and medium-sized enterprises that are looking for very small amounts. In many cases, actually, they're using their own savings and their own family resources to support this technological change, to improve basically their operations. So that's an important consideration. Anyway, any last one before we go on into this first session of this morning? But thank you very much then for sharing those thoughts from the previous day. That will help us to memorize some of those key lessons. We will hear more about this. We'll try to summarize at the end, but that was useful to raise. Okay, so now let's start our formally session number 6, that is focusing on using domestic public finance to leverage private resources. And we had a discussion about the domestic public finance already yesterday in the context of the environmental funds. But certainly we know that the public authorities have a broad array of possible instruments. And yesterday also we spoke about budget tagging, we spoke about public procurement. I think those are the other instruments that can be used for better use of public money for green investment. Within our work, OECD, and then with partners we've worked with for many of the last years on public expenditure management in the region. And this work has particular focus on supporting public financiers that manage environmental public investment programs, especially to bringing up to good international practice. So during this session now, we will look at some examples of good practice, and then that show very interesting progress, but also I hope that we will some of the remaining things that needs to be looked at to build capacities of the private sector, to manage their money well, but also to use this money to leverage more. And certainly we will look in this session, and Tatiana prompted already in the particular needs of SMEs. So that's a good link between yesterday and today. So let's start. We have 5 speakers for this morning's session. I would like to make sure that we stick to the time. Actually, I have here an enforcement instrument, which I may use. I will not use it necessary, but if I see that we are really running out of time, I may. So then let's start with the first presentation, and then I have to apologize because we have a slight change here. We unfortunately we will not be able to hear David, who has been working with us on this subject due to unforeseen circumstances, but then we will hear from Azerbaijan, and I hope Farida Alakbarova is with us online. Farida, if we can confirm if you are there.
То вы подключены? Да. Да.
Yes, I can hear you. So Farida is representing the Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources of Azerbaijan. She's working in the Environmental Policy Division. And then certainly, Farida, would like to hear from you, from Azerbaijan experience, about the use of public money, and then especially the designing some of the public investment programs in Azerbaijan that basically could help to provide some of this funding for green investment. So Farida, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Chair, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to extend my appreciation on behalf of the Minister of Ecology and Natural Resources to the European Union and international partners for organizing this meeting. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about experience of my country on implementation of green approach in economy. We greatly appreciate the assistance provided by European Union as well as valuable expertise and knowledge shared by member states and program partners. Through workshop, training sessions, country missions, and study visits, we have been able to exchange experience, learn best practice, and enhance our capacity in green programs. It is important to highlight that this program, supported by the European Union, plays a crucial role in designing investment programs, promoting sustainable water management practice, and improving to use environmental data. Azerbaijan acknowledges the importance of this initiative and remains fully committed to its successful implementation. Today, I will briefly provide an update on green programs, especially achievement in water sector. Azerbaijan, based on the principle of innovative management, and this trend is the basis of transition to green economy. In this regard, sustainable water management becomes one of the most important factors to build an inclusive society and achieve sustainable management in state. The main goal of Azerbaijan's water policy is to provide the population and all sectors of the economy with the required amount and quality of water in accordance with international standards. At the same time, it achieved good ecological status, protection of the environment, efficient use of water resource, and global water cooperation. We are committed to implement the SDGs in all our policies. For the sustainable development of the region, Azerbaijan aims to ensure the country's water policy safety and by improving the efficiency of water management and consumptions. Support in capacity building, research and development and innovation is crucial for achieving our goals. We acknowledge the need for financing in water sector, which is a critical challenge. Adequate funding is essential to support infrastructure development, improve water treatment facilities, and implement pollution control measures. To overcome these challenges, Azerbaijan is exploring various financing mechanisms, including PPC, public-private partnerships, international funding source, and innovative financial instruments. In recent years, a number of important decisions have been adopted in Azerbaijan for green economic transition and achieve the SDG in water issues. In 2020, by the decree of the President, was set up State Water Commission. The Commission ensures the sustainable management of water resources in the country by coordinating all water sector management activities. Within the framework of the adopted special programs, important measures are being taken in all areas related to the transition to green economy and sustainable water management. I'm pleased to inform you, actually, National Water Strategy in the development is continued, has made significant progress in the development of this document. Azerbaijan has made significant progress also in advancing the water for health agenda. We have worked diligently to improve water quality, enhance sanitation practice, and raise awareness about the importance of safe water and sanitation for public health. This year, the Azerbaijan Water Resources Agency has been established by the decree of the President in order to improve water management system. And the agency has been set up on the basis of emergency minister, Azersu, and Azerbaijan Melioration and Water Management joint stock companies. We are determined to continue our efforts in implementing effective water management practice, strengthening our data on collection system and faster collaboration with international partners. I would also note that this year, by order of the President, was approved Azerbaijan 2030 national priorities for socio-economic development. In accordance with this order, 5 national priorities for the country's socio-economic development should be implemented in next decade. One of these priorities of strategy is clean environment and green growth country. Within the framework of this priority, we aim to achieve the effective implementation of following two goals. First, high quality in ecological environment, and second, space for green energy. We aim to reduce the environmental risk brought on by economic and demographic growth. For this purpose, we aim to increase a number of green space throughout the country. We plan efficiently use energy in our country and give preference to new sustainable energy source in order to better meet the needs of present and future generation. We aim to disseminate environmental friendly green technologies. Based on scientific and technological potential, we intend in all sectors of the economy to increase the share of alternative and renewable energy sources in primary consumption and reduce the impact on climate change. When talking about projects in the field of economy, green economy, and ecology, it is impossible not to mention the issues of climate change. Climate change mitigation issues were described in several state programs, such as National Strategy on Socio-Economic Development, Draft National Forest Program on the Protection and Sustainable Development of Forests in Azerbaijan Republic. Mainstreaming of climate change in sector is an important part of state policy in Azerbaijan. In the run-up of this agreement, Azerbaijan submit its national-defined contribution and as contribution to global climate change prevention initiative commit to achieve 35% reduction in the greenhouse gas level by 2030 compared to 1990 by base year. Azerbaijan's update NBC is expected to be released by the end of 2022. Azerbaijan and announced the country's new goals to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 40% by 2015 and create net zero emission zones. Azerbaijan implements several measures to mitigate the impact of climate change, such as increased use of renewable energy sources, the development of more efficient energy technologies, the restoration of forests, and the establishment of new forest areas, and the improvement of waste management. Azerbaijan focuses on sustainable development achieve social, economic, and environmental goals, implement related programs and projects to promote efficient resource usage and cooperation at all levels to help achieve international agreed goals. In conclusion, I would like to express again my sincere appreciation to the European Union and all our partners for the continued support and collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Farida, for your very comprehensive presentation, and that shows the commitment from Azerbaijan, from the highest levels in Azerbaijan for greening the economy, taking into account the specific structure of Azerbaijan's economy. I would like to open for any questions to Farida about the presentation or the situation in Azerbaijan on using public funds. But while you're thinking about this, I will ask Farida a question. If you could comment about the engagement and the role of the SME Development Agency for supporting green investment, because we've been in the EU for Environment program, we've been working with colleagues from the SME Development Agency, and then we know that they have several programs supporting SMEs on market access, on development, and also we've seen their increased interest from to bring in green elements, green aspects in providing this support. So I don't know if you may wish to comment on the role of SME Development Agency, please.
Great question. Thank you very much for your question. I'm sorry, I have sorry. 1 minute. Okay. Thank you very much for your question. Yeah.
Hello. We can see you, but we cannot. Yeah, now we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Sorry. Yes, the implementation of green technologies and private partnership program is very actual for us. And as a Minister of Ecology, we are doing great work and development in the country of achieving private partnership programs for us. But actually, this topic is not also conclude the function of the minister. So I can say that only in the areas of environmental protection and sustainable use of resource, we promote the partnerships of all small and medium companies and doing the best for their cooperation in state cooperation.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if there are any other questions to Farida or comments.
Yes,
There is.
yes,
Okay.
just one, to add what Farida says, to your question. The SME Development Agency, being an entity of the Ministry of Economy, is quite active, in many areas. Maybe it's not directly involved into the water sector, but they are, for example, actively collaborating now with UNIDO on the resource efficiency and cleaner production component, and resource efficiency, of course, include the water as well. So basically, just one small remark I wanted to make.
Thank you very much. Unless there are other comments or questions, I would like to thank again Farida. I hope she's still with us. And now I have a pleasure to thank you, Farida. Now we can see you. I have now the pleasure to invite Mihai Rusu from the Ministry of Environment of Moldova, who will actually tell us more about the topic that we've already touched upon yesterday. And then we'll hear about the benefits from the reform of the National Environmental Fund of Moldova. Mihai, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity being here. And everything I'm gonna tell you about the fund and the reform we've done over the last almost 2 years. Everything was done with the help of OECD. So basically, we had a fund on an environmental fund even before, but as I said, with the support of OECD, we made some legal provision, some new legal provision, essentially provided limiting on how this money could be used. So we are now only financing the programs and projects in the field of environmental protection, climate change, and sustainable management of natural resources, compared to before, when, as you saw yesterday, almost 80% was going on wastewater treatment. Before, the fund was within the ministry, so basically the employees of the Ministry of Environment were responsible for managing these funds and giving these funds to local authorities for projects. Now this fund we modified this, and the fund is managed by institutions specialized in project implementation. The mission of the National Environmental Project Implementation Office is to support the Ministry of Environment and the organizational structures within its competence for the efficient implementation of financial and technical assistance projects, both internal and external projects. Now, after we established this new fund, of course, we needed some legal provision and technical rules, some operating rules. And here again, OECD helped us with drafting a new operational manual. We already have this operational manual for almost half a year. We made some slightly changes in the meantime, as of course, after we started working, we observed some gaps on our side, some, let's say, missteps. Of course, after we finished our first round of project implementation, we will have to change a small part of one chapter in this new law, as we think it's not exactly the most efficient way to move forward, but in general, the fund is much better as it was before. As I want actually to say that in the last 2 months, we actually adopted a new change to the law on legal taxation, which provides the fund with funds, with money. And it was really important for us. It was maybe not necessarily a fight, but it was a long process of over 2 years of lobbying and so on about passing this law. It's basically the new taxation on packages and products which are harming the environment during its use. And again, this law with Mr. Fallah, who spoke yesterday, was drafted with OECD, and we are really thankful for their help. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this good news. I think that's really what we need to see, that the things are happening and then the things are changing. And now really the fund can provide a much broader support away from rather narrow and probably, as we heard, not always the funds being allocated according to the real priorities, but I think that's very good to hear. I would like to ask if there are any questions or comments on this particular development. There is, please.
Margarita from Ukraine. Yesterday, when I was listening to the presentations on Moldova and Ukrainian experience, I saw a lot of similarities, and I just wanted to ask a question. If the newly established fund is a separate entity, because from what I understood yesterday, that we have the similar situation both in Moldova and Ukraine, where the fund is actually budgeted in the line, and then the money are allocated to the projects. In Ukraine, the same. Most of the funds goes to the water treatment facilities. So in your case, did you establish a separate entity, or you just made up a new, more elaborated procedures, how to select the projects, how to award the funds, to monitor the progress?
So not necessarily a different, well, it is a different entity, because before the fund was managed by employees of the Ministry of Environment, and we took it without, and we made a separate, not entity, but a separate, let's say, direction within project implementation unity, let's say. And they are responsible for managing it, and the ministry with some colleagues from finance, from economy and so on, we are just overlooking the process and are they're not necessarily implicated in technical decisions, but we see everything what happens, but everything is implemented by a special office. So it's a separate entity.
Within the ministry?
No, not within the ministry.
Uh-huh.
It's independent of ministry.
Okay, I see Nelly has a comment here.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to maybe make one small clarification related to public expenditure management in the environmental sector. I think when we talk about these institutions, they can be outside or inside within the ministerial structures. We are talking about independent institutions, and I think it's important to understand what independence means. I think when we have public resources, decisions made on spending these resources cannot be completely independent from the government, because it's the government that sets the objectives, the targets for spending the money, the priorities. What you need in reality is government, in a way, agreement from different parts of the government, relevant parts of the government, agreeing on what the priorities in the environmental sector should be. And you balance the interests of these different parts of the government. By independence, we usually mean independence in technical terms. The funds or the institution, whatever we choose to call it, needs to have technical staff, needs to have the skills to identify, to appraise the most cost-effective projects that will be financed with resources of the fund. And then these projects selected on clear criteria, environmental, financial, economic, they need to be proposed to a board, executive board, managerial board, board that oversights the decision-making process, which will make the decision on the basis of how much money we have available for the respective budgetary year, for example, or the respective financial year. So independence means really technical independence and decisions made on the basis of sound and robust criteria and not complete political independence. I'm sorry to break this news to you, but this is the reality we are living in. We have to take into account the political side and what politicians and government officials think and how they see the developments in the sectors, environmental sectors in the country. But all decisions have to be made on the basis of sound economic and financial and environmental both criteria and analysis prepared by the technical staff in the funds. I just wanted to say that at least in our understanding over the years, how we've worked, this is what we mean by independent. Of course, it can be fully independent in terms also of legal setup, but politically very often they cannot be completely independent. We have to, because this independence, political dependence in a way means the discussion, the debate within the government on the national priorities, and these funds are simply a financial instrument that has to implement the priorities of the government. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Sorry?
I agree with your definition of independence of the governmental entity.
Yeah, I think in this discussion, we had those discussions actually several years ago, and I feel now that there is actually this kind of renewed interest in those institutions, and I think that may be worth actually coming back and then see in more detail and actually discuss those issues. In this context, certainly, I think in the region, the model of the fund that was established exists in Poland, the National Fund for Environmental Management and Water Resources, is kind of looming as a model, as something that everyone probably now would like to replicate. So that's an interesting development. The fund is not without its faults. Just to mention, since I come from Poland, I've been observing also the development on this. But that's one of the model that I think many people refer to. Okay, thank you very much for this discussion. Now let's then move further, and then I have the pleasure now to invite. There is another comment. Sorry. Oh yes. Oh sorry, I didn't notice.
Hello to everyone. If you allow me just to bring a little bit of moment to be proud of what we succeed to do. First of all, indeed, we succeed to make the fund more independent because the created union, it's a legal entity which has the separate administration. And this help indeed to take the decisions according with the operational manual and to have very technical staff. Unfortunately, the staff is not yet big enough. We are working on this component, and I really hope that in the process of reorganization, which we are doing right now, we will succeed to have additional people in the fund. So we succeed to have a separate entity. We succeed to have a dedicated person, technical person. And what is very good, we succeed to take out from the fund everything which is connected with water supply. So the water supply is as infrastructure now belongs to the Ministry of Infrastructure and Regional Development. Now we are focused only on the environmental funds.
And we need to come back with the qualitative projects, and here we need to work more with beneficiaries, and we are quite sure that we will succeed. So independency exists, as I totally agree with Nelly, what she mentioned above, but the process is well developed at this moment. So good operational manual, dedicated people will help us to improve the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This sounded like a recipe for success. So I think it's worth to take note. Thank you. So now let's then move to another presentation from Moldova, and then I have a pleasure to invite Veronica Arpintin, who is the State Secretary from the Ministry of Economic Development and Digitalization of Moldova. And especially, we're very happy that we have representatives from the Ministry of Economy with us here.
Yeah,
Veronica, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Will we have a presentation?
We'll ask us.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you, colleagues, for organizing this event. And yesterday I was involved very much in all the discussions as a listener, because all the experiences are different, all the economies are different, but there are similarities, and this is a nice opportunity to learn. And thank you for organization of this event, much appreciated indeed. I'm representing Ministry of Economic Development and Digitalization of Moldova, and it could sound like Ministry of Economic Development and Digitalization will focus only on digitalization, which is also one of the priorities, but we aim greening the economy. So through the digitalization and other tools, which I will speak a little bit later, we agreed with the team that the future we want is green and inclusive, and these things could not be splitted and treated separately. So let's see how we want to reach the objectives we set. And I want to mention that together with Ukraine, we have an ambitious goal to join EU in 2030. So as we have to speed up with everything we're doing. Can I move to the next? Oh, sorry. Okay, yes. Just
check this. You change from here.
Thank you so much. Sorry for. Oh, yes. Okay, so in our government we have many ministries which are involved in greening the economy, and we cannot really separate Ministry of Health from all the environment issues, or we cannot separate Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Economy and also of Agriculture, because we all are doing the same thing. But the leading role here we have with big support from Minister of Environment, Minister Iordanov, and our minister, Mr. Alaiba, and we're leading the Green Economy Working Group, which is also developed and submitted now for public discussions, and when we hope to have approval in government of Green Economy Program, which is focused mostly on promotion and education and implementation of green economy principles, and also on circular economy, because it's a very urgent thing. Moldovan economy is less carbon economy in its essence, but still the cost or the share of cost of resources and the reusage of resources is at a very low level in Moldova, and it's important to target this. In addition to Green Economy Program, we have developed program for entrepreneurs and competitiveness growth. We focus on ESG implementation in terms of the green. We want to prepare our companies and to export, to be competitive in the future. Now, mostly 70% of our exports are going to EU. EU market is developing very fast, and EU market is green. green, and EU customers prefer to make a choice when they buy product or services toward the greener product or service. So we want to be compliant and also to be competitive. And for this, we need to prepare businesses and support infrastructure. We have planned activities related to green inclusive main objective, and I will speak a little bit later about this. And just to mention, we have SME development agency. It's called ODA, Organizacja Dezvoltare Antreprenoriatului. It's in our language, and this institution is independent, but also implementing the objectives of set by government, and this institution prioritize green initiatives as well. However, it is not easy because we need capacity building there as well. And ODA is offering grants and training programs for energy efficiency, for recycling, for green business. ODA is implementing this year ESG for their financial support. So we want to see how it will go further with ODA itself before we promote. And also programs, guarantee funds, and programs to finance investments are tracking at this point green project, but we want to make possible green projects prioritization as beneficiaries for the future. But for this we need to do some more steps. I mentioned that the EU accession for Moldova and for Ukraine is a very big flag. And for EU accession, when we have meetings with advisors from Romania, Bulgaria, and other countries who passed this way, they say that the EU accession agenda is very much dominated by green things, and we understand very much that there is a lot to do in this direction in Moldova, but also we have a feeling of lack of capacity, which is a challenge, but also this is an opportunity because we can learn from others' mistakes and successes, and thus be more efficient and more production on this way. Briefly, in our vision, we need not only funds, which obviously everyone heard yesterday, this is a catalyzer for changes. We need the know-how, capacity building, expertise, even awareness campaigns to show and demonstrate to businesses that not only photovoltaic stations are energy efficiency or another ways to be green for Moldovan textile industry, which is a big part of our economy, and they have a big challenge with waste, or for winemaking of Moldova, which again consumes a lot of water, and there is an issue with water treatment within this industry. Just for example, Chisinau, our capital, is consuming the same quantity of water like all the wineries from Moldova per year. This means that it's a huge amount, and we're thinking, of course, mostly Ministry of Environment, but we're thinking together how to help companies to be more efficient in using the resources. In Moldova, we have presence of bigger aggregators, supermarkets chains owned by a European owner. They're reporting on ESG. They want their suppliers in 2 years to be able to report on basic ESG things, so as they also can track this. And again, we have to prepare companies not only to report, but also to think about this during planning of their operation processes. And of course, we need a regulatory framework, and we are thankful for all support we have from OECD here, because it's a huge, and it's not only assessment like Small Business Act assessment. I'm speaking only about private sector efforts, but also we have a lot of advice on this side, and I if I would encourage or ask of more, if this is the right way, we would like to do this right now. The quality is very important in this context. I also would like to mention that all the efforts and maybe small but very brave steps of Moldova in greening the economy are done with support of our partners, and there is a common effort to support Moldova, and this effort is indeed a joint. We have next week, together with Minister of Environment, meeting with donors to learn what has been done this year and to coordinate the next activities as well. This is another exercise which is very important to ensure that we don't have overlapping between donor funded, but also we target all the areas where the intervention is needed. And I would like to mention just a few, but very important assistance initiatives we have as well. We have UNEP within EU for Environment. Thank you, colleagues who provided workshops and site visits, I guess, for textiles, Tatiana, and wine industry. Do you remember? And these were very useful catalyzers for these companies to think about rearranging their strategies and operations. We have UNIDO helping Moldovan companies with advice to improve production, develop business plan, and again, what is very important, they worked with 2 parks, industrial parks in Moldova. It's an agglomeration of the companies to show and implement very basic and very important things like diagnostics, improvement plans, financial business planning, and so on. This is indeed very, very important. And for UNIDO, special thanks because you have gender aspects included. And indeed, in Moldova, the rate of implementation of green technologies between companies managed by men and women is different because naturally in our culture we work on this, but women are, let's say, afraid of technology in a way, and there is a need of special education and business advice to help them to adopt green technologies as well. And again, this is a very important priority for us. We have support from Sweden, of course, for Green Agenda. It's a regional exercise for Moldova, Ukraine, Armenia, and Georgia. And what is important, Sweden will help us to align with EU regulation because it's a very complicated and huge amount of work. We need support here. We have colleagues from EBRD and the European Investment Bank implementing green finance business lines, which mostly focus on technical advice, aligned with the credit product as such. We have IFC with working with National Bank of Moldova to implement taxonomy, as we decided that the first step would be easier with the National Bank of Moldova, and hope we will have Ministry of Finance support there. We have support from USAID, so everything is ongoing. And just to look on the map of the donor support, we understand how much effort we need to move forward, and this support is very important for us. I mentioned that green and gender initiatives are important for Moldova because we want men and women to use their potential for the benefit of the country, and also we want that women are more active in entrepreneurship, and thus their companies should be more competitive, and to be more competitive you should be more green. And in this context we also implementing some efforts. I will be maybe able to as I have exceeded the limit of time, I will be able to speak about this at the breaks we have. And just to mention that this is important, and we should not leave behind any of the sub-represented groups who should participate in driving green economy towards the most green future. So I would like to say that I'm so inspired by this event and feeling filled with new ideas and new arguments and new visions. And I'd like to thank all the participants of yesterday panels because it was, some of the ideas were very like a discovery for me. And I do hope we as a country, with the support of all the ministries and parliament, will make our country more green and then more competitive and more sustainable. Thank you so much. Thank you, organizers.
Thank you very much, Veronika, for this very broad and interesting overview of and explaining and bringing the role of the Minister of Economy here into the picture. That's I think from our side, as being environmentalists, I think that's to see is our greatest ally here in this context. So we're happy to hear those words, and certainly thank you very much for bringing the gender perspective. That's a very, very important, and then we need to, I think, they understand the problems there. You mentioned, that's very interesting, your comment about women being afraid of technology. I've seen examples of opposite, but certainly.
Yes, and we have even digital startups in green, led by women. But generally, we had a study 2 years ago, and the education we have in our traditional culture that men are boys for math and girls for drawing. I'm simplifying, of course, the things lead to the fact that they kind of feel that they need more knowledge here and support.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask if there are any questions or comments after this presentation. Tatiana Ionida, please.
Thank you very much, Krzysztof, and thank you, Veronika, for being so kind, mentioning the cooperation we have. We really appreciate the process of engagement and the collaboration with the government and the Ministry of Economy in particular. And I would like to highlight that it's not only about the capacity building and promotion of the greening for SMEs, but also the breakthrough, I would say, initiative that you have with ODA having this greening SMEs fund, which is already in its second phase of implementation, and the fact that we can direct the enterprises whom we assist as a part of diagnostic studies on resource efficiency, we can direct those enterprises to the fund to apply and to implement the identified measures. It's already a big step ahead. We bring this experience of Moldova to other countries of Eastern Partnership. We are also discussing this in Azerbaijan with analogous agency, SME support agency, also available under the Ministry of Economy, but there we are not yet speaking about availability of green funds for SMEs. It's only funds for SMEs. Whereas in Moldova, the experience is indeed to be followed. Maybe if you can reflect on that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Tatiana, indeed, as I mentioned, if we bring money to Moldova and we don't bring knowledge and capacity building, we will not have a result. That's why it's important not only to bring this knowledge, but also to generate the demonstration effect. So what is important from the assistance provided by NIDA, that we have everything in place, and we now see that the comprehensive approach of all these three elements is indeed very efficient. And just to add, all these efforts, which were supported by development partners last years, led us to change also the structure of the ministry. So now we are restructuring the Ministry of Economic Development and Digitalization. We create a special section for ESG things, and I do hope we will be able to streamline green agenda in each and every program we develop.
Okay, thank you very much. And now let's then move to in looking at the watch that we have around half an hour to hear two presentations, and then certainly to have also another round of discussion. So without any further ado, I would like to ask Anuki Batiashvili from the Georgian Energy Development Fund to tell us more about the fund, but also about how this cooperation with international partners can help public environmental finance institutions to do better.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I would like to thank organizers of this conference, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here with you. Georgian Energy Development Fund, the organization I'm presenting today, is a joint stock company established in Georgia in 2010 and operates under the umbrella of Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia. The mission of the fund is to promote the realization of the energy potential of the country through fundraising, development of projects, and their effective implementation. The main objective of the fund is to search for promising projects of renewable energy sources and attract investors in various phases of the development for these projects. Over the last 12 years, the success story of GEDF was expressed into the figures. 140 megawatt of installed capacity was added to the country's energy system, and the average investment cost of this project is around $160 million. The pipeline which are having today has very promising projects, and much more projects will be implemented the next year. So we will add the capacity of the country more than 150 megawatt. The development of projects by the fund is carried out according to two main schemes. First is when GDF, with internal resources, is initiating and developing the project, and then trying to find the investor. The second one is co-participation of the fund in the project found by the investor. According to this scheme, any company implementing energy projects in Georgia has the opportunity to apply the GDF with a request to participate in the project. After familiarization with the project documentation in details, in case of obtaining the shareholders' consent, the fund has the right to engage in the development of the project proposed by the investor. So generally speaking, GDF as a fund functions as a project developer, project promoter, service provider, and also project manager. Over last almost 30 years, since we were established, GDF has developed his own strategy how we cooperate with our partners. After selecting the partner, we have to establish JV, and GDF may inject capital, but should stay in minority. And also we have an exit option at defined stages. Mainly we use this option after commissioning, because this option allows us to maintain our resources and relocate them in another projects. As I already mentioned, GDF is a state-owned fund, and so our mission is to be in line with country's policy, and developing a renewable energy project is our main priority. Based on these missions above, we have several projects which are already implemented by GDF, and our success story includes several projects, including the only wind farm operating in Georgia with installed capacity of 20.7 megawatt, and also one of the biggest HPP which was constructed recently in Georgia, the Arieli HPP, around 108 megawatt. But in our pipeline, we have promising and featured projects, and I will, to keep the time, mention just two of them. First one is solar power plant, which we are cooperating with Abu Dhabi Future Energy Company Master, and it will be the first and biggest utility scale solar power plant in Georgia, 96 megawatt. And as I already mentioned, it was the first utility scale solar power plant in Georgia. We believe that by implementing such projects, we will help to fulfill obligations assumed by association agreement and achieve goals related to renewable energy and climate change. Another featured project which we are having in pipeline is Nigoza wind farm. We are cooperating with Turkish company Michalak Energy, and pre-construction works are planned to be started next year. All these projects which we have already implemented are in our plan are implemented with financial assistance of IFIs, and we have good cooperation with domestic banks as well, especially in terms of providing bank guarantees. And I have to mention that we are cooperating with IFIs not only while developing the generation units, but also to conduct the studies in order to respond to the challenges which sector is facing today. So around 10 such studies have been conducted concerning to hydrogen potential, battery storage, and other important topics. And last topic I would like to mention is that we already started accreditation to Green Climate Fund, and the fund is considered one of the largest financial partner organizations for Georgia in the direction of climate change mitigation and green energy development. And we believe that accreditation will allow us to attract cheap loans and develop more projects in direction of renewable energy, introduce and implement new technologies, and strengthen the organizational structure. So we believe that by the end of this year or early next week, we will successfully complete our accreditation process, and will be the second entity in Georgia who will obtain their accreditation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very interesting, concise discussion. I have a very immediate question. Which one is the first? The other accredited?
TBC Bank.
TBC Bank. Okay, good. Thank you. So, any questions, reactions? Olena, please.
Thank you, Ms. Batiashvili. That was very interesting, indeed. Yesterday, one of the representatives of the Development Bank said that this new mechanism for financing, such as green climate funds, are so difficult that it's very difficult to comprehend how to work with them. So from your experience, is it that difficult? What would you advise to representatives of other countries in their work with the green climate funds? Thanks.
Currently, we're revising our application process, and it took us more than 1 year to identify the gaps and then elaborate all the policies which should be in place in order to gain the accreditation of GCF. The most challenging one was gender policy, to elaborate and show the evidence, because till the time we didn't have any gender policy in Georgia, and it took us almost 1 year to elaborate all the policies which was found out during the gap assessment, and to show the evidence that we have all policies in place, and we are working according to these policies. So now we are revising our application, and then the second stage will be working with accreditation panel, and if they will provide the positive decision, the Secretariat will send our application to the board, and then probably they will accept us.
But is it as difficult as people say it is?
I think yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Even though I think yesterday or on another occasion, I heard that the the Green Climate Fund is actually, the procedures are improving at the same time, so are being streamlined. So that's, I think that's kind of the parallel process. It was interesting also to hear about the different structure of the fund in Georgia. So that's another contribution to our discussion, how the fund could be managed. So that's certainly an interesting dimension. And the last comment from my side, just is that I understand actually that there will be a large meeting of the governing body of the Green Climate Fund. Actually, will be happening in August, in October in Tbilisi. Yes, so that's another mechanism to understand better the funds, to invite them to come to the country.
And we hope that by the time we will be ready to provide everything.
Okay, thank you. I see the comment from our colleagues from Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you. Azamat Temirgulov, Climate Finance Center under the Ministry of Natural Resources, Kyrgyzstan. Thank you for sharing this experience of Georgia. In Kyrgyzstan, we're also trying create quite similar energy development fund, but we are, I believe, in the beginning of the process. And I would like to know, what is the status of this Georgian Energy Development Fund? Is it under the government or is it under the Energy Ministry? Thank you.
GDF is state-owned fund and is under the umbrella of Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia. So our shareholder is the ministry.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions, there is one. Yes, from our colleagues from UNO.
Thank you. Just as additional information, last year in the framework of Youth Environment Project in both countries, Georgia and Moldova, we organized very interesting press tours to the SMEs, where we observed very interesting startups on with use of applying of green economy models and different interesting elements. We also saw the interest from the SMEs representatives and motivation to learn best practices and to apply these new technologies. They also highlighted many challenges that usually SMEs in developing countries, in countries with the developing economies usually face, and that brought us to the conclusion that more capacity building and training workshops and exchange platforms with other startups and other examples of green economy apply of new technologies and models are needed. So that would be good if you consider within your programs under the ministry such support, but also within different other international and technical projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now let's move to the last presentation during our morning session, and we will hear about actually a new development, about the new public funding instrument and the mechanism that has been established in Ukraine. This is the Fund for Decarbonization and Energy Efficient Transformation. And then I have the pleasure of welcoming Maria Malaya, who is the first Deputy Head of State Agency of Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving in Ukraine.
Thank you. Thank you, Krzysztof. And I would like to welcome everyone in this hall. Thank to the organizers for the opportunity to be here and to present our plans. Since February 2024, Ukrainian infrastructure and energy system experienced a terrible and unfair military attack. And but despite this, and thank you to our partners, we have become stronger, wiser, and more aware. More aware, first of all, in energy efficiency. And we will never again on Russian fossil fuels. And it's our firm choice. And according to new energy strategy of Ukraine till 2050, could I ask you? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Green. Okay, thank you. And according to our new energy strategy, Ukraine must follow the European principle, energy efficiency is the first. And today I present the state energy of energy efficiency and energy saving of Ukraine, which is responsible for implementing policy in energy efficiency, renewables, and decarbonization. And as you maybe know, Ukraine has very ambitious plans and goals in this sphere. What I mean, in energy efficiency, our goal to reduce 22% of primary energy consumption till 2030 and 17% final energy consumption till 2030. In renewables, our goals to achieve 27% of renewables in final energy consumption till 2030. And in decarbonization, we should reduce CO2 emissions till 2030 by 65% in comparison with 1990. And what we need to do to achieve these goals? Of course, we need relevant legislation and regulation, and Ukraine has done quite a lot in this field. But today is critically important to create effective tools for supporting energy efficiency, transformation, and decarbonization. And our agency now is working on launching a new instruments of these fields. What I mean, we launching 2 new tools you can see on the slide. First of them, it's fund for state fund for decarbonization and energy efficiency transformation. And the second tool, it's national decarbonization platform. Our fund for decarbonization and energy transformation, as Krzysztof said is pretty new. On April 11 this year, the Parliament of Ukraine approved the law about this fund, and the fund was created according to the European principle, the polluter pays, and direct CO2 tax for supporting energy efficiency and decarbonization projects and state programs. It will start next year, but today we work for secondary legislation and to start this work next year. The fund is a budget line. It is not institution, and its main task to be a sustainable source for state program for energy efficiency, renewables, and decarbonization. So in addition to funding state programs, the task of fund to involve of international credit funds and grants for the implementation low carbon projects, and securing the payback and return investment of and financing financial liabilities. Of course, the fund as a budget line needs a practical mechanism to provide funding for the project. So today we are launching new tools, a national decarbonization platform. It's new, as I said, universal tool, and it's first revolving mechanism in Ukraine for financing energy efficiency projects and decarbonization projects. Yes, energy. Our national decarbonization platform will be the digital, transparent tool for affordable funding, firstly, technical expertise and solution and monitoring and verification, all life for projects and of course for dissemination good practice and successful stories and education. You see on the slide it includes all needed components for meeting these goals. For example, you see it will be catalog on energy efficiency equipment and technology, catalog for typical energy efficiency solution, funding instruments such as preferential lending, leasing, factoring for EPC contracts, grants, co-financing, and one part is a Green University for education and dissemination technologies, and of course, part of monitoring and verification of the project. And we are planning to use platform not only for spending money from the state budget, from the decarbonization of state fund, but to attract additional funding for cooperation with investors, donors, and other stakeholders. You see our scheme of cooperation on slide. As a financial institution, platform will provide funding for, first of all, for business, secondly, for the municipality and for household, but especially for household energy independence, I mean renewables. And we're planning to use as more as possible green finance instruments, because it would be a financial institution like a green bank, and we can provide loans, leasing. And next step is using credit carbons and green bonds to stimulate green recovery and the development of Ukraine. And we envisage the development plan for platform and the priority areas for its financing for the entire period of the energy strategy until 2030, as you see. First period this year till 2026, of course, priority is recovery and energy efficient transformation for energy security. Next period, priority energy efficiency, innovation and modernization of the real sector of an economy. And in this period, we hope we use carbon credits and green bonds for stimulate this process. And the last period, 2030-2050, priority development of low carbon business and circular economy process clusters, something else. So you see, despite war, we have a lot plans and a lot of work to do. And we achieve platform starts at the end of this year. So therefore, I invite all our partners to join to recovery of Ukraine and green transformation through our new national decarbonization platform. Thank you for your attention. It was really pleasure for me to present you our plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maria. And we really, I would like to express our, and I think on behalf of all the participants, our solidarity with Ukraine in this extremely difficult situation and in the face of this unimaginable and unexplainable aggression of Russia against Ukraine. I'm certainly, we still, everyone hopes that that there will be the solutions will be found and then the war will finish as soon as can be. But certainly there are this should not be at any price, as we all know. So let's be hopeful but then certainly it was very encouraging to see this development happening actually during those extraordinary times, and again this is encouraging to see that things are possible, and then from our perspective certainly I believe we'll be very happy to provide as much support as possible with ideas, with engagement, but also we'll be happy to hear about those developments, also to give food for thought for the countries, and that's very, very important. So thank you very much. I would like to ask, yes, please go ahead.
No, thank you. Just thank you.
Good, thank you. So are there any questions from colleagues to Maria? I'm just also checking online. Anyone? Yes, please.
Thank you, Maria, for presentation. We stay with Ukraine, of course. My question is maybe some, maybe specific, but how was the process of setting the fund? Have you had the support in the parliament? And if any challenges at this level, how do you overcome?
Thank you for your question. History about this fund started, I think, 7 years ago. But as quite unexpected, but our parliament ready to support this idea exactly this year, and most of parliament support this idea because now we facing to challenge with the CBAM tax, and our industry should be prepared for this because it's a new challenge in addition to war for our industry, and we all of us understand that we should do something, and our European integration task help us to thank you. But it was long time to prepare that fund.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your presentation and for the results which Ukraine achieved, even if you have very complicated situation. And as my colleague mentioned, we stand with Ukraine. So I just wanted to ask who is managing the new fund of decarbonization and energy efficiency, and what is the mission or objectives of this fund? What do you expect from this fund? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. As I said, fund just a budget line, and manager of this line, our agency, and Ministry of Recovery, because we are coordinated through the Ministry of Recovery of Ukraine. And as institutional, it will be state enterprise. National decarbonization platform, like you know, maybe everyone know DIA, but it's DIA in energy efficiency and low carbon development. It's very ambitious, but we try to do it. So as the manager of this fund will be this state enterprise and our agency. And now we are creating the digital tools, software, and so our American partners support us to create digital software and digital tool for this. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, there is also Kyrgyzstan.
So in this presentation on Decarbonization Fund of Ukraine, we learned that one of the main sources, financial sources for this fund are environmental taxes, yes? And then all other sources are secondary. So my question would be to Anuki, because I think these two funds have some similarities. So my question to you is the main sources of your fund is also environmental taxes, or you don't use this environmental taxes? Thank you.
Main sources of our fund was, so for the first time when the fund was established, the government injected the capital, and the main sources when we elaborate the project, we sell our shares and then relocate the capital in another project.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Malhas, Georgia.
Just to add some information for our colleague from Kyrgyzstan about environmental taxes in Georgia. We don't have environmental taxes in Georgia since 2004. That's the difference. And we didn't have, and still we don't have any environmental fund in Georgia. That's the policy of the government to avoid creation of multiple funds. This fund is some kind of exclusion or exception, but the most of the funding, as was mentioned by a colleague from this fund, is mostly comes from central government, national government funds.
Thank you very much for this clarification. And indeed, Georgia has been different in this context from other countries for quite some time. For different reasons. We can talk about this during a coffee break. But there is the last question from UNIDO, Tatiana.
Thank you very much, Krzysztof. My question would be addressed to the Ukraine representative, and I would like to congratulate you on this effort. I know that the process of going into the creation of this fund took more than 20 years. At least there were different discussions, and we were following them very closely. Energy efficiency is also in the heart of industrial resource efficiency for us. One question: in the priority areas and the timeline of the fund implementation, you mentioned circular economy, or the circular economy is mentioned only as of as a long-term perspective area of interest. Could you please reflect on why it's considered to be such a long-term priority, and whether there are any other steps or initiatives envisaged to be supported by the fund in the shorter term? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. About circular economy, I try to be honest because and unfortunately, most of the member of the parliament or some ministers care about it's not clear for them what is circular economy. Unfortunately, it's something very unclear and very strange. That's why it's the last, but we try to funding such project at first stage, of course, but it for our members of parliament and members of government who don't understand what is circular economy and low carbon business, because it's something new for Ukraine, for not for our agency, but unfortunately for our stakeholders. And now all it's important because all our funding we try to direct for our recovery and Ukraine, and it's starting now. So we thinking about energy efficiency recovery. It's no other choice for us. So fund will be one of the instruments for green recovery, especially for our business, relocated business, business which was distracted by military attack. It was a priority of this years, for next 2 years, I think.
Okay.
Krzysztof, if I may, really 1 minute to reflect on this answer, because this is exactly the reason why we have under EU for Environment ongoing project, a component on circular economy dedicated specifically for Ukrainian businesses and government representatives. And we plan to have an online training course launched towards the end of the program. We are now developing it. We are now conducting a survey among the key representatives of the governance structure to identify the gaps and to explain the notion of circular economy in detail. So that's a
thank you. It's very useful for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this very rich discussion. I would like to thank all the panelists for sharing the views, experience, good knowledge, and I hope that then we will continue our now discussions during the coffee break that is coming. And then since we have less speakers in the post coffee break session, I would propose that we actually have still half an hour, so we will meet 11:15. So have a good coffee.